Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to give you a tour of my home, including each of the rooms that has a fish tank in it, and then I'm going to go over each of those tank setups in detail, including the equipment. This is going to be awesome.
No, it isn't!
Don't listen to them. Here we go. Perhaps you'd like a quick tour of my fishy home.
No? Well, too bad, because we're already starting. And don't worry, it'll just be a quick tour before we get to those tanks. If you drove up to my home, this is what you would see. We're the last house in the cul-de-sac with no immediate neighbors behind us and just a few off to the sides, just the way we like it. This is the master bedroom, and this is where the magic happens. Yeah. Oh, and by that, of course, I mean the quarantining of fish, raising of fry, and growing out juvies. You know, things like that, obviously. It has my Apisto tank, which has had a bum deal of a week, but there's also some good news coming up in just a bit. Here's my grow out tank. We're still looking for some additional wall decor in this room since my wife has laid down the law and let me know that there will be no more aquariums in here, unfortunately. I know she means no more than the one I'll eventually be setting up right next to my Apisto tank. Surprise, honey, look what I did. And out the door and down the hallway to the penitentiary. That's right, my 8-foot-long African cichlid tank, Alcatraz. We chose this house plan. Well, I mean, the reason I wanted this plan was because of this. Check it out. You walk right through the front door, and because the office on the left veers away like that, there's still plenty of space to walk around the tank that's right in the entryway. I mean, it's the first thing you see. And it's the first thing I want you to see. And here's where the other kind of magic happens. By that I mean, of course, watching Netflix and fish tanks. It's a pretty open plan, so right behind the couch we have the kitchen and dining room. So I can eat and watch my tanks, and do dishes and watch my tanks. Brilliant! You might be thinking to yourself, this guy has a problem.
Yep.
And I definitely do, there's no doubt about it. Once our grandkids are older, these high chairs will be swapped out for a storage cabinet. And just kidding, fish tank. And as I've mentioned before, this now vacant room my daughter used to inhabit may someday be an aquatic kingdom of tanks.
Oh, and one last thing, let me show you where these videos are hatched.
Right here in this bonus room, you can see my treadmill that will someday keep me in shape, and this is my new huge monitor that allows me to have folders up, DaVinci Resolve, which is my video editing software, and the most important part of all, once again, Netflix.
Well, and kicking off the tank tour, why don't we start off with the little guys.
You will subscribe. Ding ding. This is a 23-gallon rimless tank from Landon. Bought it on Amazon. I like the 23-inch length for this dresser I modified to be able to support the weight, and I like how it's a little wider than a 29-gallon at 15 inches. And look at my triple red cockatoo apistogramma babies. They are loving it in here. You'll have to excuse the tank appearance. I'm afraid to do any cleaning. Don't want to suck any little guys up, you know. Don't really know what I'm doing, but at first I was feeding them some smashed up big boy Northfin pellets that I usually feed the Africans, but Northfin was gracious enough to send me a care package with all kinds of different foods, one of which was this little fry starter powder. It's perfect for these guys. And I was looking at them the other day and I thought I actually saw some red on a dorsal fin. Who knows? It looks like they're about 1/4 of an inch long right now, and it's a good thing one of my females had babies because this tank hasn't been optimal for my full-grown apistos. This has actually been a tank of death.
I don't know why the adult apistos are dying off, but I've had 4 of them, 2 females and 2 males, and they've all died one by one. I've checked the water parameters and they're all okay. The tank is fully cycled, there's plenty of aeration and filtration, but the fry are doing fantastically.
As for the equipment, I'm using the AI Prime freshwater light that sits above the tank, creating this nice shimmer. It has a great ramp-up capability that you can customize. That way the light just doesn't pop on all of a sudden and startle your fish. This Fluval Tidal 55 was only supposed to be temporary, but I love it. It's the best HOB you can buy, and the best part of it is that if the power goes off, it'll self-prime and keep on working. A lot of filters don't do that. You can customize your filtration media as well. I just have a bag of biomedia and some foam right now. This little blue thing pops up when you need to clean your media, and it also has an adjustable flow rate. This is just a great filter. This is an Eheim 100 watt heater that I have on its side. I love my Eheim heaters, they do a great job, that's all I use. And of course it's plugged into an Inkbird controller. This controls when the heater turns on and when it shuts down based on the parameters that I create. This one has a heating and cooling input, so I just use the heating one. An alarm will sound if there's a problem. The rocks and driftwood I found down by the river, and the plants are from PetSmart and Buse Plants, and the sand is Carib Sea Sunset Gold that I got from PetSmart. Since my 75 is just a grow out tank, I won't spend too much time here. I bought the tank at Petco on sale, and it was actually my first African cichlid tank. It's stocked with a few Lethrinops and a few unsexed living stonies that I'm growing out to hopefully get a male for Alcatraz. It's lit by a fluval aquasky light strip. This is a good light that also has a ramp-up time. Two Eheim 150s, both hooked up to another Inkbird controller. The rocks are from Aqua Decor, leftovers from Alcatraz. The sand is Carib Sea aragonite, and it helps buffer the pH since Africans like it a little bit on the high side. There's one Hydor Corallia, I believe it's an 800 WAVEMAKER up at the top right. The stand I made myself using the plans from Joey, King of DIY. Since I made it myself, you can see some of it's kind of fallen apart. And inside I have some overkill filtration, a Fluval FX4 and a 407. The 407 alone would be fine for these guys, but I just never unhooked the FX4 when I dropped the stocking level. And perhaps I've been a bit lazy with this tank. You think I should add some more pizzazz to the decor? Let me know in the comments if I've been a lazy bastard. Just a few seconds on the quarantine tank. It's just a cheap 10-gallon from Petco. It has a small sponge filter from Aquarium Co-op. It's powered by an AQQA air pump. There's an ultra fake plant and one heater still plugged into a controller. I have this tank set up for my new red-tailed shark and 3 of these little nerite snails. I told you that'd be quick.
Now onto the big guys, and these 2 tanks are my favorite in the house because they're the biggest, but they also have the coolest fish, and most importantly, they're in the living room, so I get to see them all the time.
Alcatraz is the biggest tank I've ever owned. It's 8 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and I can't see me ever wanting anything larger either. Well, except for a 10 by 3 by 2, of course. And a 2,000 gallon that the couch is currently holding the spot for. Don't ever even mention anything about that to my wife. Stressful. I don't know if I've ever told you, but I was thinking of getting rid of my aquariums once entirely several years back. I had only owned community tanks at the time and I was getting bored, and guess what happened? I stumbled across Caveman Kev's channel and saw for the first time what African cichlids look like. I fell in love with those fish. My passion for fish keeping was rekindled. Oh, and guess what else? Talk about irony. My wife had talked me into keeping my community tank. I think she might regret that decision now. And someday we'll have so many fish tanks that just to get into the house, someone will have to drop my wife in through the roof because the whole thing will be just like one huge tank. Plop and drop, baby, just like a fish. Anyway, this tank is filled with about 35 or so beautiful peacocks and haps and one lone mbuna named Ray. Say hi to Ray, everyone. Funny how cute he is, but he's the toughest inmate in Alcatraz. He holds the key to the yard, you might say. I bought the tank from Fish Tanks Direct, and I often wish I'd gone with glass, but this was just so much cheaper and it's a lot lighter.
A couple things that I love about my acrylic tanks is they're super clear and they're really light compared to glass tanks. But what I don't like about them is that no matter what I do, I'm gonna end up with scratches on them.
This was my first acrylic, so I scratched the shit out of it by doing dumb things like scrubbing too hard with a magic eraser, but it's still beautiful. It's currently being lit by 2 Fluval Marine 3.0 light strips. They don't cover the entire span of the tank, but I like a little vignette for drama and to give the inmates some relief from the light. The Sea Marine light gives you more control over the light than the Aqua Skies do. They're only on for about 5 hours a day. Here's where my favorites from the selection of Aqua Decor rocks went. They look really cool, don't take up a lot of water volume, and it's not as easy for the inmates to hurt themselves on them as with real rocks. These awesome pipes came from Petco, but they don't sell them anymore. The sand is also the same aragonite that I have in the grow out tank. There have been a lot of questions on my videos asking where the fake black plants came from. These were from Lower 40 Farms on Etsy. Not bad for fake plants. I have 2 WAVEMAKERS, one at the top right and one on the lower left side. This creates a flow that pushes all the detritus toward the filter intakes on the right side. Makes my job of keeping the tank clean an easy one. Well, pretty easy anyway. To heat this massive body of water, I have 2 300-watt heaters hooked up again to an Inkbird controller.
Let me tell you why you need to have a controller. Without one, your heaters can malfunction and not turn on at all, or they can turn on all the time and cook your fish. So I have them plugged into a controller that will only allow them to come on when the temperature drops to a certain level that I preset in the controller, and then it leaves them on until it reaches the top threshold, and then it cuts the power off to them. Very difficult for a heater to malfunction and kill your fish in this way. And the reason I have 2 heaters in my tank is because if one malfunctions or breaks, then I have another one to get it by until I get the backup installed.
The stand is one of my favorite things about this setup. It's once again made using the plans from the King of DIY, but the finish work on this one is much better than the 75 is, mainly because I didn't do it. It even has these cool metal corners on it. The best thing though is that it's tall. The tank sits like 45 inches from the ground, so I don't have to bend over to look at the fish. Inside the stand rest 3 FX6 filters with cheapo pot scrubbers from the dollar store. Not using pot scrubbers in your filters? Well, check out my video on them in the upper right corner. So you might be wondering why I didn't go with a sump instead of canisters. Well, there are a few reasons. First, I was a little intimidated by the process and couldn't find a good instructional video on YouTube that would walk me through it in a way that I could understand. I was also afraid that they'd spring a leak, and if they did spring a leak behind the tank, it would be a nightmare trying to get to those pipes. The tank needs to be as close as possible to the wall to allow for room in the entryway without seeming too crowded. Look how close I can get to the wall with these canisters. If I had a sump, the overflow box would be on top, and that would make it stand out from the wall several more inches. And last but not least, sumps can be a lot noisier than canisters. Since these are right in our living space, I don't want to give my wife any extra reasons to complain about all these wonderful and beautiful tanks.
Now on to my other acrylic tank, which is smaller than the first one, but has actually become my favorite tank in the house. It's my 180-gallon American tank, which doesn't have a name yet, guys, so if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments.
This tank and stand is very similar to the 240 with a few significant differences, so I'll just cover those. It's 6 by 2 by 2, just 2 feet shorter than the 240. I made all of my acrylic mistakes with the African tank since it was first. This aquarium hasn't suffered nearly as badly, just a few insignificant scratches on this one. The tank is stocked with several different types of veil fin angelfish because they're way prettier than the standard angelfish. I have some high coverage kois, a regular koi, some marbles, and a black. Some of you have suggested that I get rid of the angels. But I'll get rid of you instead. Get rid of my angels. What's wrong with you? Okay, relax. I'm not getting rid of any of you, but I'm not getting rid of the angels either. Not gonna happen. Well, at least not in the foreseeable future. I have 7 Geophagus, red-headed Tapajos. I think they're going on a year now, and only some of them have recently started getting some red heads. Slow growers and slow to color, but I love them. They sift the sand even more than the Africans do, and some people don't like that they disturb the scape because of their sifting, but it's my favorite part about them. If I could go back, I'd probably get Sveni instead, but I'm happy with the redheads. I have 1 Juvie Jurapari, there's an Autosynclus in there somewhere not working very hard, and finally an electric blue Akara, who isn't doing so well.
Okay everyone, I feel so bad. I made a rookie mistake with my electric blue Akara when I bought him. So I went to the local fish store and I asked them how long it had been since they'd added any other fish to the tank. And they said it had been a couple of weeks, and each tank has its own filter, so I don't have to worry about circulating water from other tanks. So in my mind, that was good enough. That was a quarantine period, and I didn't have to quarantine him. So I just put him in the tank. But shortly after, I noticed that he started getting a sunken belly and he wasn't eating. So I think he has a parasite. So I'm treating them with medicated fish food right now, but he's not eating any of it. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know, if you think that it's okay to not quarantine your fish, think twice.
The tank is lit by 2 of those AI prime lights, and I love them. I only have 2 because, as I said, I like the light fall off on the sides. There's only 1 FX6 filtering the water, and I thought I would need 2, but I only have it lightly stocked, and none of these guys are very messy, so 1 is more than doing the trick. I only have to do a 25% water change every other week, and the water is still crystal clear. There is a small WAVEMAKER on the left just to create some more surface agitation, mainly in case the filter stops working. By the way, links to all my gear is in the description of every video I make. I used to just have these standing logs from Aqua Decor in there, but I recently rescaped to add this branch I found for free. The thing would have cost about $400 or more, so that was a major score. You can see the rescaping video in the upper right corner. So I have a serious question for you. A few people mentioned that they didn't like the standing logs in with the branch. Some people hated it. They'd prefer just the branch. And I've been flirting with the idea, but I'm still leaning toward keeping the logs. What do you think? Do you like the standing logs in with the driftwood, or do you think they need to go? The rocks I also found down by the river, and the sand is Carib Sea Torpedo Beach sand. I was going to use the Crystal River, but Torpedo Beach has larger granule sizes, which I prefer. The plants are all epiphytes, which means you don't have to plant them in the substrate, but attach them to objects like rocks and driftwood, like I've done. And I'm a serial plant killer, but these seem to be easy enough to take care of that they've resisted all my efforts to kill them. So those are the main differences in the 2 acrylics. Let me know if you think I forgot something.
Well, that's my house and those are my tanks. Let me know what you think of them, and let me know what tanks you guys have at home. By the way, if you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, or you will be judged very harshly. You've been watching the Cichlid Charmer, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.